Antonio says Pla. Bozina, we have hellos from Poland. We have so many hellos. Warmest welcome, everyone. Beautiful to have all of you here. Let me just take a look in the chat. We have people from Germany, we have Texas, Switzerland, London, Sverige, Sweden, Florida, the UK, Germany, lots of different parts of Europe, lots of different parts of the US, as well as Canada. Several people from Canada, Spain, so Port, Portugal, North Carolina, wonderful Netherlands, Massachusetts, Poland, Istanbul, more people from Turkey, Crete. Wonderful, welcome everyone. Ankara, Minnesota, Italia, Finland, Madrid. We're most welcome everyone to this beautiful session where we have the luxury of learning from Richard Thorn. We're super happy to have you here and be here with you, Richard, today.
Hello, everyone. Can they hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
If everyone can hear us, please write yes in the chat just so we double check that everything is working on the logistic end.
So
And
there's no one
before
from
we,
Argentina now.
oh, I think there will be.
Tell
Sooner or later there will be.
tell them they robbed us.
So now, Richard, before I start talking, I would love to hear in your words what it is that we're going to be focusing on today and also what you are going to demonstrate for us.
Okay, well, we're doing a landscape, a typical lane scene, and really it's a tree. Here's the image. If you can see that, that's the photograph we're going to be working from. And basically, I'll show you that again. It's all about the textures of the trees and the light in the trees and the textures of the grasses in the foreground and the bright colors to enhance a sort of lovely summer day. So I've got my colors sorted out and we'll be looking at, I'm using Michael Harding colors, which are, I don't know, I think they're probably English, but they're made with gum arabic and honey. Means they're not so they're more sort of malleable and liftable than just
Okay.
gum arabic colors.
Ah.
Um, I'm also using you can't see the texture, but it's a handmade paper by another English company called Two Rivers. But there's also a lovely paper, a handmade paper that you can use called Khadi, which is an Indian handmade paper. And there are other handmade papers. And the beauty of that is that they don't tend to be so absorbent. So you can lift off colors. And, if you make a mistake, you can lift it off and do it again.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
great to know that you're going to be working on easily lifting materials
yeah,
today.
it's a very absorbent paper, which means the paint sort of sits on the surface.
Yeah.
And I've done some paintings which will sort of give you an impression of how you can lift off the color once it's been put on. All the color, the lighter colors you can see there are lifted back off. Um, Whoops, sorry. I'll put this here on my. I'll change to the webcam so you can see the colors here, the lines. They're all lifted out and lifted out quite easily, and a little bit of lifting out on the cloud there. So that handmade paper really helps you to sort of work back into the painting. Um, and if you've done something too dark, you can always dampen it and lift it off. And it's very malleable, which is why I like it. I've just rediscovered it actually, because
Ah.
I used to work on it years ago, but I went
Oh.
to wash paper and other papers, which they're great papers, but they haven't got that lifting quality that handmade papers have got.
Thank you so much for that, because some artists they need the paint to stay so they can work in
Yeah,
several layers, and other people need the paint to be easily liftable, and it's so different. And these are one of the things we're going to talk about, how to avoid muddiness. And especially when we work on surfaces that are easily liftable,
yeah.
that's something we need to be aware of. So let's dive in because we have a lot to cover. So warmest welcome
Okay.
everyone.
So do
So
you want me to
this
start painting?
so that we're gonna start by just introducing everyone and having some logistics, and then it's time for the first out of two painting parts. So this workshop is called Most Watercolor Painters Fight Their Darks. Richard Thorn gets it right from the first wash, and
Yeah, that's not true.
and we're gonna see how
Dark
it actually
substance.
works. So before we start painting, let's take a question for those of you who are here live today with us. What
Mhm.
describes your place? So those of you who are participating today, are you at a plateau? I've been painting for a while, but I feel stuck. Or are you in the building stage, meaning that you're developing some basics or some additional skills so that you're building your toolbox? Or are you at the level that we today call serious, that you want results that you can exhibit, that you can feel that you're creating a body of work that you are proud for? Please share in the chat. We have Samantha who is at level serious. Wonderful, you are fast. We have Plateau from Mora. Nice. We have serious, building, 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 plateau, building, serious. All of these building, serious, building, building. Yeah, and I'm gonna take a look at the questions later on or during
Okay,
the
well, the
workshop.
building confidence seems to be the one at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and rediscovering watercolor. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. So before we dive in, there are some logistics that I want to share. First and foremost, this workshop will last for about 1.5 to 2 hours. We will see how long it is. There are moderators in the chat ready to help, and therefore please use the chat. Also use it to help each other out, to inspire each other, to ask questions. And the broadcast may delay a few seconds, so that's why I sometimes leave a moment to read your answers. And if this is your first workshop with Artefacto, welcome. We highly recommend that you feel no pressure to paint along with the master as they paint when you have no chance to pause. So you will have access to the recording for a couple of days after this workshop. You will receive an email with information about that. So you don't have to paint along. Of course, if you do want to paint along, please go ahead and do so, and be kind to yourself, and you can always try again to the recording. And now we have another question for those of you who are here. Have you ever experienced one of these 6 things? One, your paintings keep going flat. You add layer, hoping for depth, but it just doesn't happen. Or number two, your bright colors eventually turn muddy as you paint. So after a couple of layers, you have lost that sense of brightness. Or number three, you overwork it and you try to fix a painting, but instead of it getting better, it gets worse. I think everyone can recognize themselves in these.
Yep.
Or number four, it's easier to copy and paint along to a video than to replicate and be able to do this on your own from your own reference photos. I think everyone can relate to that one as well. Or five, you don't know
I
when
think
to.
with that one, I mean, I
Mm.
started when I started out. I used to. I was influenced a lot by the American watercolor painters, and I replicated a few of theirs. But it kind of got me off off the lifting pad. I
Mm.
mean, it's not a bad thing.
Mm. Great. And number five is I don't know where to stop. So it's hard to tell where that end stage ends and where, yeah, when to stop. And six, if you feel that you avoid complex layering, water foliage, and texture feels like too much to control at once. That is number six. And let me read the chat because we have so many numbers. We have all of the above from Courtney and from Caroline. Anna says, muddy. John says, overwork it. Definitely Anne too. Overwork it, Teresa as well. Anita as well. Many, many overwork it. Johanna says, don't know when to stop. Diane says, overworking it. Heather says, avoid complex layering. Overworking it. 1 to 6 says Luna. We have number 3 a lot, number 5 a lot, 3 and 5, 3 and 5, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you so much for sharing. So we don't need to feel alone in these experiences. 3, 5, and 6. Hola, and Anna says, hola, and Diane says, all. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. So this is something that we're going to touch upon today together with Richard and see how he deals with all of these things in his own painting practice. And what we will do together today is that Richard will show you how to lay a wash that builds color, texture, and tone very consciously. And we're gonna see how he keeps the sense of glow throughout the painting process. We're also gonna take a hands-on look at his 3-in-1 wash method, 1 pass 3 jobs, to see what that is all about. We will also be announcing Richard's brand new course, launching exclusively at Artefacto first, and we also have a Q&A session with Richard at the very end. So if you're new to Richard Thorn, allow me to introduce him to you. He has been reading light since he was 5 years old on the coast and farmland where he grew up. And what changed his painting, he learned how to lay his brightest tone first and then protect it, and to use very vibrant and bright colors as well. And we can see the light, the vibrancy in his paintings. It's almost like it's that sunny day whenever we watch these paintings. So he knows how to work with light and color to create that sense of enhanced beauty of the world. He's a signature member of the Royal Institute of Painters in Watercolor, so RI, 2-time RI Best Watercolor Award winner, prize winner at, yeah, you can see here, the 2019 King Dao International Watercolor Exhibition, has exhibited and sold in galleries across the UK, USA, Taiwan, and South Korea. And we see here a quote from Richard: "Every wash I lay down does 3 things at once: color, tonal value, and texture. Once you understand that, you start painting with purpose." So that's gonna be super fascinating to explore that today.
I did.
Wonderful. And Richard, one thing that I always feel when I look at your artworks is that your works are so vibrant and the colors are so bold and beautiful. And it's not that washed out, safe watercolor painting. It has that almost medium-less, I mean, transcending mediums sense of clarity and brightness. What inspires you to
Well, the
create in
thing
this
is,
beautiful way?
I mean, it comes from my heart, really, because I'm a quite colourful sort of person, and I like bright, nice things. But with the painting, if you start off with a rich colour first, you know, quite a not a dense colour, but a rich enough there to sort of make it sing. The rest of the washes will allow that brightness to shine through. You know, so if you start off with a weak color or a weak tone, should I say, the next tone you're going to have to put on is going to muddy that. You know, and each time you add another wash to try and get that luminosity and brightness, you end up muddying it. So your first wash is the brightest thing you can do, and that will set the tone, if you like, that, excuse the pun, that set the tone for the rest of the painting.
Thank
So
you so much.
you've got to be quite bold with the first washes rather than think, you know, this is
Yeah.
wishy-washy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and this is something we can tell from all of your artworks, that you have embodied this so powerfully. So it's just across all of the subjects that you paint, you have that clarity, that brightness, that beauty. And in his online demonstrations, we have a quote here: "I'll change my mind on camera, adjust the composition mid-painting, show you exactly how a professional decides while painting, not from a fixed plan." And this is an artist who has been painting professionally for decades, and the method he's sharing today it is the same one behind his award-winning gallery work. So we're in a very lucky position to be able to take part of this today. And over 500 students have already painted together with Richard in his first course, and we have so much wonderful feedback. A great teacher and introduced techniques and tools I've never used before, learned a lot, brilliant tutor with good explanation, really enjoyed the process. And Richard is talented, knowledgeable artist and teacher who conveys information very clearly. Love this class, wonderful. And we get to see some examples of students' artworks here
Oh, great.
of previous student works. So that's beautiful. We
Yeah,
have the freshness, the brightness, the boldness in all of these.
it's great.
And and today we're gonna introduce the second course with Artefacto, and this is even more personal. Richard has taught elsewhere, but this course is different in that it entirely builds around the three-in-one wash method that you're going to be watching or we're going to be experiencing today. And this is going to be taught in full in this course. So if you want to learn more, pay attention during this workshop and you will have a chance to join at a very special price point as an introduction price for this, a welcome price. And today only we will also be opening limited enrollment for this specific pricing plan, pricing point. And this workshop is created for you if, especially if you recognize yourself in one of these, that your paintings keep going flat and you add layer after layer hoping for depth, but it feels like every layer is doing one job when it could be doing more. Or if you feel that you easily overwork every painting and you can't really tell where one stage stops and the next one starts, so you just push and push and push until the whole painting feels a bit tired and overworked. Or you freeze when it comes to your own references and you want to have more of a plan and understanding of how to progress when it comes to any kind of reference. So we have already talked about what creates a bright wash. The next question would be, what keeps this wash bright under several layers while painting over the bright first washes? Are there any key principles that can help us understand this and that can help us understand your process when it's time for the demonstration part?
Well, I mean, you'll see me do it, but on the demonstration. But the thing to do is it's the application of the paint that really counts. Is it's not and the thickness of the paint that doesn't block out the underlying color. So you're adding on tones, you're adding on a color, but you're allowing the underlying brightness to shine through, which is why it's always wise to put down your lightest, brightest colors first as a template for the rest of the painting.
Thank you so much for that. And here is an overview just so that you can categorize the demonstration part more easily when it's time to watch Richard paint. So the first one is brightness first. Bright and intense before anything else. So it keeps shining through every layer after, just as Richard has already shared with us. Number two, a three-in-one wash so that every layer adds color, texture, and tone at the same time instead of separating this into different
That,
stages and different
that
layers.
second category there really pertains to after I put down the initial colors. So it's really the second wash that really encompasses that three-in-one idea. We'll see when I do the demonstration.
Makes so much sense. Thank you so much for clarifying that. And then we have the textural actual how to, which is stipple and spatter as structure that we're going to see how Richard creates that. And then how to preserve whites and clarity without masking fluid. And also how, number five, how to use reference as a starting point instead of something to copy. How to rework it to create an even better painting. And most watercolor instructions will tell you what to paint, and Richard will tell you how and why it stays bright, how, what to do, and why this works. So that's what we're going to explore today. So if you're ready to gain insights from Richard, I know I sure am. Please write a yes in the chat. because it's time. And what you need today is watercolor paper, rough textured is recommended, or something similar, even better if it's handmade, but I use whatever you have. Yeah, 100% cotton is preferable. Is that what you also would say, Richard? Would you agree with me on 100% cotton being preferable for your technique?
Well, yeah, it's the most durable, and sort of recycled paper just doesn't do the job. It's got to be high quality, 100% cotton rag. Uh,
Perfect.
but most watercolor papers are.
Yeah.
Um,
And then a few different brushes. You might not have all of the brushes that Richard uses. Use whatever you have. You can always purchase
I'll
other things.
explain those as I go along.
Exactly. And then watercolor paints, of course. You don't need any masking fluid. We will see what happens. And as Richard shared, he's using Michael Harding watercolors, but use whatever you have. And also make sure to watch and observe. If you want to have a slower pace, you can always watch the recording later. And here is the sketch as well as the reference photo. And it's time to dive in. So it's time for the first practice part. And that means that I'm first going to read some yeses in the chat because we have so many yeses. We have yeses from Jason, from Guido, Anna, Rachel, Anne, Rosa, Rusty, Monica, and so many more people. Thank you so much for your yeses. And I'm going to pop away and disappear, Richard, but I am here in the background listening and
Okay. So
I
you're
can
going to
pop back
start.
in. So now it's time for the painting part. Take it away.
Okay, right. I'm going to switch to the webcam now, and you can see the paper that I'm using. I hope you can all hear me. These are the colors I'll be using, which is shallow cyan blue. That'll be for the darks. Bright green lake, cerulean blue, Payne's grey, vivid blue, green gold, and warm yellow. And I forgot yellow lake, uh, yellow benzimidolo, or whatever that's called, viridian. And this is the only non-Michael Harding. This is, I think it's an aquarelle paint called oxide of chromium. And I'll be using that for the tree color. So there's the colors, and I'll show you how I mix them. And what I'm going to do is, first things first, we need to work on the composition. So what I want to point out in the composition is just a few things. One is that this road tends to sort of go off the picture, so I'm going to bring that down a bit and bring this down similarly as in the sketch. I want to emulate this V shape of this tree and the sort of mushroom shape of this tree. And I love this little area here in the background where there's fields. I'm going to push this back a little bit just so I can emphasize those fields. The horizon line comes about a third of the way up, but I'm going to push that up a bit because I want to make more of this foreground. So I'm going to do the drawing based on that. I'm going to have the sketching done at once so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to do a thumbnail sketch. I'm going to put the horizon line about there. And then we've got I always think it's best if you start around the sort of middle of the painting or middle of the scene so that everything else spreads out. I hope you can see these lines. I don't want to put too many hard lines on the picture at first. So I'll just bring that down a bit more. And then we've got this bit here. I hope you can see that. Now we've got these the idea of the tree here comes out. There's a gap there, and that shape there. I'm still trying to keep the sort of V shape of the tree. Next, we've got this barn, which I want to put in. And I want to retain the whiteness of the roof, so I'm going to leave that as white paper for now, but the tree sort of falls over that and goes out of the picture. A little bit more for this tree here. Then we've got this tree here, and we've got the fields in the background, so I've left that space there for the fields in the back. And then this mushroom tree, which sort of joins onto this bit as well. This comes down quite a lot. I'm just doing, rough lines that will probably change when I actually come to do the painting. And I always say, as a kind of adage, that if you've got a good composition, you've got a good painting. It will certainly help you. I've got this tree line going out of the picture. So generally there's the painting. This dark area here. Then we've got this lovely log in the foreground. It's, again, I'm going to leave as white paper. And there's shadows here. So that's all I'm going to put in to the painting, because I don't want it. I don't want the drawing to dictate too much. I want the painting to do that rather than the drawing. The drawing is really just a guideline. So what I'm going to do now is take a big brush. This is number 12 sable. And I'm just going to mix up a few colours that I need for the sky. And I'm using the vivid blue. Put that in this. And we're just going to temper that with a little bit of cerulean. So those are my two cut sky colours, and I'll mix those in the third compartment. While I'm doing that, I want to mix my yellows up too. So I'll put the vivid green in, the bright green lake. Mix that with some. You can use a cadmium yellow pale or cadmium lemon if you wish to mix the greens, but they're quite bright colours. And a little bit of yellow lake just to deepen the yellow a bit. And those really will be my primary colours for the painting. Actually, I've forgotten another colour. There's a yellow, a warm yellow, which I want for the sort of more distant fields. It's like a little bit like a Naples yellow, or a Turner's yellow, perhaps not so red. But those will act as my far fields. Well, I've got all those colours. I'll just mix up my sky colour. That's my slight bit of blue. And it's a kind of greeny blue. It's a nice, warm, summery blue. So there's the colour for that. And start painting. And as I come down to the horizon, I'm just going to add more water to that. So it lightens as it comes down. And you see I've gone over the tree, but the tree, tone of the tree is about 20 times darker than the sky, so I can afford to go over the tree with blue. And as I come down, I'll start to add in my field colours. That's my far field. And all this is sort of like wet and wet. And I'm going to start adding some greens as I come down. But add a little bit more warm grey here to the grass verge. So you see nothing's definite yet. It's just all wet and wet. But you can see how bright it is. I've got to remember to leave that log. Just paint around that. I really want this brightness to, you can see the relevance of putting on bright colours from the start. Remembering that I want that white passage there too. I'm just going to dob in some yellow bits here just to remind myself where the tree is, but I don't want that to be too much. I don't want to obliterate the sky because I want the blueness coming through still. Okay, that's the first watch. I'm going to do a bit of 3-in-1 by adding a little bit of green to various areas by just stippling in some green colour, just again to add tone, texture, what we talked about, the 3-in-1 kind of idea. And doing this, it allows me to see the texture before, instead of just having one blank color, it's given me something to work into. It's got a few textures there that mean something that I can use later on. So that's the first wash. Now I'm going to dry that, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm going to use the hairdryer, so I'm sorry, talk amongst yourselves. Okay, that's enough of that. Sorry about that. Okay, so I've I've mixed up a little bit of the chromium oxide, which I'm going to use for the trees. But I'm going to also temper that with a little bit of yellow. I don't want it all again. I don't want all the same tone. And I'm going to add a little bit of cerulean blue when that's down to again add a little bit more texture. Um, but before I do that, I just want to show you the sort of lifting potential of this paper. So if I just do that with some water and lift it out, suddenly it's giving me a little line of clouds, which that's all I do is just add some water. So you can see the lifting out potential of this paper. Yes, I think okay, so I'm going to start stippling in the trees here. But I want these broken edges, the sort of rugged shapes of the trees. So I'm going to use this brush, which is a kind of acrylic oil brush, which is nylon, quite stiff, and it gives me some nice stippled edges, so I can start. You can see the lovely edges that it makes. And this isn't the final thing because I'll be adding on more texture to this later. And I'll be adding in some more yellow here, trying to leave some blue areas, but I can lift out those later. I've been flicking and stippling, just creating tone, texture, and color, 3 in 1. Yellow, so that okay, there's my main trees. Now I'm going to use the same color with a tiny bit of cerulean blue. To paint in these trees in the background. I want them to sort of recede, so that's why I'll put the blue in. Okay, and there too, in the fields. Okay, now as promised, I'm going to add some more cerulean blue. And hopefully, I don't run out and a bit more chromium oxide, which is fast, rapidly running out. One of my favourite colours. Okay, so I'm going to use this oxiding cerulean colour to add in a few textures to this. before it dries. So again, we're not sort of just painting into one blank area. Because the next wash I do will be definitely darker and more textured. And there's no real attempt at the moment to add detail. The forms of the tree will be made by the darker areas, and it will be given a sense of three-dimension. I just want to take the green here and just add a little bit of texture into this. And then a tip of the bushes here. Then a little bit more bright green and red to the opposite side. Um, Switch brushes now to a smaller brush because I'm sort of painting on more, slightly more detail. So at the moment, it's just a lovely mixture of blobs and gradually making shapes, starting to make shapes. I think I'll continue this side of the tree a little bit further. Okay, that's the second wash. And then I might even go in with a few darker bits of cerulean, but not too much because I want the darks to be a separate colour altogether. So there we are, that's the second wash. This is looking quite nice. So I think we'll have a break there, and then the next session we'll finish off the painting.
Thank you so much for that, Richard, and it looks so beautiful already. I love the vibrancy. It's like yummy. I want to either eat something tasty or paint. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you can see the relevance of the bright colours. Everything sits on top of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't cook a good curry unless you cook the onions, and the first wash is
Yeah.
your onions.
Yeah, yeah, it gives that umami.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for that. And thanks everyone in the chat for helping each other out. Beautiful. And now we're going to take a bit of a break and also talk about how we can learn more from you in this new course. And after that, it's time to finish this painting with a darker layer of the shadows and
Okay.
just see how everything comes together.
All right.
So, for anyone who is painting along, this gives you some time to finish that first couple of layers and maybe dry your painting. We will continue in a few minutes. So, in the second part, we're gonna see how to layer on the next layer and see how it all comes together. And we have a question for you, Richard. A
Mm.
lot of people watching today understand the principle, but they can still watch their brightest wash go muddy by the third layer. Have you seen that in students? And when that happens, what is usually missing?
Um, I've got to think about this because um, it depends on the thickness of the paint that you're putting on. You saw these washes that I put on, the darker ones. They were still quite watery, but they were still quite intense. So the mixture of water to paint is paramount, really. It's very important. Um, but again, I've said that if you've got this intense color to start with, the rest of the paint that you put on, if you put it on light enough or, in proper proportions, will determine, um, it'll add to the luminosity instead of taking it away. And also the colors that you use. If you're using a color that's not really applicable, I mean, painting is about color interpretation. It's not about copying nature. It's about giving a rendition of nature. I mean, so what I do is I choose my own colors. I think I've got an idea of what that color is, and I use it instead of thinking, oh well, yeah, the sky is blue. That means, but what kind of blue is it? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it deep? And I make all these considerations long before I put paint to paper. um, and I guess that's all I can say. I mean, partly it's intuitive, it's, uh, but the most important thing is that if you put down enough intensity in your first wash, you won't need to add many more colors to that to make it work.
Mm,
Because you've got the underlying intensity and the boldness of that first wash. It carries everything.
that makes so much sense. Also, if the first wash is a bit timid, then the second wash and the third wash is not going to create that brilliance, and it might even seem look like it's muddy, but instead it's lacking something.
Yeah,
It
well,
might be
you're going
pale.
to compensate with your
Yeah,
subsequent washes
yeah,
because the first wash isn't intense enough.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
watery. And, I mean, you can add darks, but you've got to have that underlying richness to your
yeah.
first wash. And really, I mean, you could quite easily say, start as you mean to go on. Start the first wash as if you're not going to paint over anything else
Yeah.
at
Mm.
all. Yeah.
So many good pieces of insights and wisdom that you're sharing. So much.
I know it can't be done that way, but if you think in those terms, it can really help you sort of see that. I mean, like I'm not going to add any more blue to that sky because
Exactly.
I put down the tone and the color that I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you do a sky and you think, oh, it's too light, you're going to go across that. You've lost the luminosity of that one primary wash because all you've got is the whiteness of the paper to make that sing.
Yeah.
If you keep on adding washes, it's just going to block the paper, the whiteness of the paper. So, watercolor painting is about, being intense, but let the whiteness of the paper show through.
Ooh! And now we have seen the starting point of one of your paintings, and there is a chance of joining you in four of these processes. And we have these four beautiful paintings here that you have created. Four landscapes, different lighting in all of them, and they show this system that you use in all of your artworks. And you have created a complete course here for Artefacto, and it's called Light and Dynamics Painting Brightness That Survives Every Layer. And it's opened up right now for us who are curious to learn more of your method and learning this for ourselves. And this course is perfect for artists who feel that bright washes easily go muddy, or
Mm.
if or for those who feel that they can copy but it's hard to repeat and they need a system in place to be able to create that vibrancy and boldness in their own artworks from their own references. And
Mm.
also for those who feel that they easily overwork the paper trying to revive or get it right after a while, layer upon layer, and
Yeah.
want that freshness kept in place all throughout the painting process. And also avoid painting water. Um, in this one, we are not gonna be using masking fluids, even though that is an option. That is not being used in this
There's an
particular
option
course.
really. When you're using paper that doesn't lift off as well as this, I'll show you at the end of the painting how well this lifts off and gives you the impression that you've used masking fluid, but
Wow.
um, it looks more natural.
I see, that makes so much sense. Yeah, it's gonna connect more to all of the other layers in that way. And we're gonna take a look and walk through these beautiful landscapes. So we start with layering textures, lesson number one of this beautiful scene, and we can see you have transformed the reference into a really vibrant watercolor piece. Why did you choose this scene, and what do we learn in this part of the course?
I just love the sort of the way the trees fell into the field there on the right and the distance of the field. I'm a big fan of distance. I love distance. If I can get the viewer to walk into the painting and walk through the fields, then fine, I've done my job. But the other one was the cacophony of textures. I don't know where you got this painting because that's not the final thing.
Ah, we're gonna see if we can see the final thing later then. It looks like it's layer number two here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not.
Mm.
I actually did. I did a acrylic on canvas on this piece, which is far more textured. But this gives you the impression of you can see in the middle fields the green and the brown or the orange. They, but you can still see the yellow shining through the orange because, like the painting I'm doing today, I just flooded the whole thing with this sort of yellow green as my primary, um, you know, underlying color. And then the shadows actually sort of really sort of helped to lift those out. Um, but the textures all came on top, like we're going to do today with the tree in the foreground. You'll see how that happens. But this is a typical example of what I'm doing today. I mean, the sky was one wash. And then I came down to the tree line and added the yellow.
And
So similar process.
and then here on the next one we get to see all the way to the final layer at least, and we see even more how you have created a sense of distance, also because this is completely finished, but also because you have exaggerated the the aerial perspective. There is such a nice feeling of being just embraced by the greenery in this one
Yeah.
and the sense of journey. It's so poetic. I love this one. Could you
Uh,
share why you love this and why you chose to create a lesson from this particular reference?
well, again, I love the colours and the shadows falling across the lane, but the thing that really did attract me was those distant trees, which I wanted the eye to go to that. I want you to walk to those trees, and be attracted by them. So they had to sink back into the background, a little bit like I did with the blue, adding the blue into the painting today. But I love the shapes of the shadows, the way they echo the undulations of the path, and just the feeling of walking through something. It's always a good feeling, to walk under this canopy of trees. So that was my inspiration for that, really. Plus the textures.
Yes. And also something that I notice in all of your artworks is that you just tweak the reference. You open up, this is just opened up a bit, and as well as here, this part is just visible. You just tweak everything so that it's easier
Well,
for the eye.
those are my kind of little penchants, really. I wanted you to look through that lane and to go past the trees out into the distant field and the trees. So I had to kind of broaden the gap between the two sides, um, just so that you can walk through it. And like I said, my interest was the distant trees. So to show that off, I had to create more of a gap.
And it creates all the difference for how easy it is to just rest in the painting. And I love just to see both the reference and the finished painting because it highlights your thinking process and your way of guiding us as viewers
Yeah.
in such a beautiful way. Then we move to a completely different scenery, creating distance and space in lesson number 3. So, what do we learn in this one that is different from the previous two?
Well, really, the clouds are the things that add to the recession of this and take you into the distance. You can see there's 3 layers of cloud, each getting smaller, and that adds to the spatial kind of distance. Um, and really, I kind of it's not one of my favorite paintings. I mean, I like it, and I think it's got that kind of distance. I just think there's not enough texture in the foreground. I could have worked more on that and changed the colors a little bit, but it works. It works for me, and I like it. Again, we talk. You can see in the foreground, you've got these light ochre kind of colors, which was they were put over the whole thing first, primarily, and then the browns and the greens, also browny greens, were added in subsequent washes, and then the details, and then finally the dark line of trees on the right there, and the details of the darker bushes in the foreground. So it was all a process of building up layers of texture and leaving enough bright areas to add detail and just building it up in the same way that you do with every watercolor. Yeah, and
And
that is the process, light to
yeah.
light to dark.
And what we see here is that you use the same process for very different subject. Now we have moved to a subject where the vast mountains slash fields are the main character in as well as the sky. Then we move back to the trees, but here the water and the trees and the light are the main characters. So this is a completely different light and a completely different subject as well with all of these this sparkling water. So, what do we learn in this one, and how does this spark our possibilities and inspiration as artists?
Well, the first thing you notice is that I didn't want to go. The photograph is quite dark. The greens are dark. The background's dark, and I sort of wanted to brighten it up to emphasize that yellow field to add the lightness to everything and create the contrast of the dark trees, which adds a dynamic. And I think it's worked in that sense. I'm not sure that that's the final painting either.
Or maybe it's the final painting, but it lacks some contrast. It's hard to tell.
No, no, I think it works. It's just that I don't. I thought I'd added in more detail into the foreground, but no, never mind. I mean, um, it's quite a dynamic composition because it's in sort of like threes. You've got the river, the field, and the far trees, which is quite a very simplistic um, composition, but it all hangs together with the trees, of course. And creating light patterns with shadows falling across rivers is kind of an easy way to create light. It's not a trick, but I mean that's what I love about the picture. It's those shadows falling across the water. But as soon as you do that, you've immediately created light.
It's so beautiful.
Right.
Thank you so much for walking us through this, the content in this course. And the results, if you were to join, is that you learn how to stop losing brightness and instead create beautiful brightness, knowing the exact steps to keep that wash glowing under the next following layers, and also how to build both color and texture in toe and tone without having to add tons of layers, but instead knowing
Yeah.
how to do that efficiently so that your artwork can feel more fresh and bright at the very end. And also control your lights and your whites without masking fluid, learning specific techniques that keeps that vibrancy and fluidity of watercolor all throughout the painting. And also how to rework a reference with a plan, and instead of copying it, creating art from it and knowing what to change and why. And another important piece, which we're gonna see more today, also when and how Richard decides to stop. So you will understand what to paint, what to leave out, and why. And also see your own progress and look back at work from before this course and see the difference clearly. And I feel that this could create so much vibrancy in your artworks if you want to have more of that brilliance in your artworks. We have several different ways of joining this. We have the standard plan and the premium plan. So both of these include all of the pre-recorded material that we have walked through. So these 4 beautiful subjects, and it's lifetime access to the video lessons. And in the premium plan, we have all of that. And on top of that, we have a certificate of completion as well as individual written feedback on your final paintings, so the finished paintings, from a professional curator who is also a professional artist trained to give you critique and feedback to help you grow. So that's an entirely different level of support system around that. And individual written feedback is available, so you will get that and have access to that for 75 days for the free premium plan. This is a way for us to encourage you to go through the course and post your artworks and have that additional momentum, as well as that personalized feedback which will target your strengths, areas for improvement, and have that additional support system and also motivation to go through this. And if you need to pause this, if you cannot finish this, write us an email. You can freeze this feedback if you need to, but only if you contact the team. Otherwise, it will be the 75-day window for the premium plan curated feedback. And right now we have the launch prices. So the prices are only $114 for the premium plan, and only $102 for the standard plan. And on top of that, if you join us while we're still having this conversation and join while we're still on this live stream, you have an additional 10% off. And this price will pop up when you choose the premium or you choose the standard plan. So they will only pop up once you have chosen your pricing plan, and they will disappear once we finish this live stream. We also have something called Color to Light Complete Path Plan, which is a duo, a bundle of 2 courses. So basically you will, for this price, and this is only today, $144 for $144, you can join this course as well as Richard's previous course. And I'm gonna just walk you briefly through this. So we have the coastal cliffs and sea light. We have movement by the sea and warm rocks and atmospheric waves. And all in all, these are the 7 paintings that you will get if you join the bundle. So this is one method across even more subjects that Richard paints and shares with you. And you see here several different color choices, several different scenes. So if you just want to learn Richard's method and paint more water, more rocks, and more of those blue wonderful shadows, as well as people and waves, and we have the rocks in several different of these as well, then I highly recommend joining the bundle, though that will be both of these courses in the standard plan. This course is that shortcut built into 4 landscapes you can apply your method to starting now. And you can join by scrolling down and clicking join the course, and there you can find the pricing plan of your choice, the one that fits you the best. And with that being said, it's time to continue the painting part. So I'm gonna hand it over for the dark layer and see how it all just pops even more.
Okay. Hang on. Okay, so I just need to dry this little bit here, which is still a little bit damp. Okay, that's enough.
Before we start, Richard, I just want to ask a couple of questions about the materials that we got previously. One of them was, do you paint on a bit of an angle today?
A slight angle, yeah, it's
Slight
about
angle.
I don't know what the degree is, but it's about a 3-inch wedge. Well, no, 2-inch wedge. So it's very slight. It's almost horizontal, but
Uh,
not quite.
and then the other question is, how big is your paper today?
It's oh no, you've asked me. I would say about hang on. My trusty. It's 45 by 31 centimeters. 45, 31.
Thank you so much for that. And we're gonna have to use our math to convert that for anyone who needs inches. And now I'm gonna leave it to you again
All
for the
right.
painting part.
Okay, thanks. So I'm gonna start putting in the darks in the trees with a similar method that I used before. I'm just going to choose my brush because where is it? Um, here's some now this might answer your question. Okay, so I'm using a smaller stipple brush, still nylon, but I can do smaller areas with it. And I'm going to use this number 2 or number 3 sable just to put in little dots where I need them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my phthalo blue mixed with, that's my phthalo blue, mixed with a little bit of Payne's grey, just to darken it. This might not be the final depth that I'm looking for, but also I want to add a little bit of cerulean blue just to this area here where it meets the sky, so it's not all dark. There's different types. I'm going to start with this tree here. Now what I do is because I think I need a little bit of Yeah, a little bit of chromium oxide in there. And these will be my darks. So it's these two colors here. These two. So when you got a tree, I mean, it's got its own shape, but I'm going to be here forever trying to copy that tree. So I'm going to kind of make up the shapes as I go along. So remembering the shapes of the the shadows in the trees, but diverting off to make my own kind of shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spatter some water onto there and then add some mid-green just to add a few textures. So that will probably be enough. Then I'll take my brush and go in with the darks. And then I can start actually sort of painting the shapes that I want. And you see that because it's still wet, you get some bleeding area, which is really nice because you're not, and you get some areas that where there's no water, so you can create wet in wet and solid shapes at the same time. You notice that this tree has a kind of darker side to it. The sun's coming this way. So I'm revealing yellow shapes underneath. I'm not obliterating all the yellow and the green underneath. I'm just trying to create this kind of dimension to the tree. And up here, I'm going to use my blue where the tree meets the sky, so you get that sort of. It's like the tree is taking on some of the sky color. Okay, that's enough for this tree. I'm going to work on this tree now in the same principle. Wet some areas. And I don't want to wet it all because I want this green and yellow to show through. So I've got quite a dark area there. And where I get a little yellow passage here, I want to leave that because that adds to the sort of bright sort of revealed boughs of the trees. And we're going to do the same here, put some blue in, some blue green. But you see, with this sort of delicate approach, I'm not disturbing the underlying color. It's just I'm not making mud out of it. I'm not working the painting so hard that it obliterates what I've already got. I'm allowing the underneath colors to breathe. As the tree comes down, obviously, it gets darker in this area. I'm going to start working upwards from the bottom. And as I come down here to the hedge, I'm going to leave little areas which will make up the top of the hedge. And you've got those. And you may think it's weird just using blue and Payne's grey, but again, because I've got enough intense green here, the blue and the dark of the Payne's grey allow the green to shine through. So you can create that sort of 3-dimension, if you like, just using basically 3 colors. Now I've done that, I can actually paint in some dotted leaves just to add detail and make it look like it hasn't been painted by a stipple brush. Change the direction of the brush to create the different angles of the leaves. Right. Okay, yes. As we come down here, it starts to get a little bit greener, so I'm just going to add some green lake to that dark colour, just to create more texture here, because it's not a solid colour down here. Okay, now that the barn's quite a lovely blue, so what I'm going to do is lift out some of that yellow and still try and create some marks for the hedge. Just damp that off with a tissue. And that's got me back to nearly white. So now I'll paint in the blue side of the barn. Still remembering to paint the foliage. Okay, so that's the barn shape. Right. Now we need to do this tree. So what I'm doing here is going to take green cerulean blue because I want this tree to go back. I don't want it as dark as this. Um, having darker accents here and there. That's darkening it towards the bottom of the tree. And then we've got that lovely shadow forming across. Okay, so I've left enough here to be able to let your eye go through to that field. Now I'm going to create a little bit of texture on those far trees. Using cerulean blue, just so that those trees recede into the distance. And the same here. Remembering not to cover everything. I still want to create texture in those. Okay, so that's the line of trees there. Now I want to darken these areas here. So I'm going to use my stipple brush for that. Every time I think it's starting to look static, I'll just put on a few flicks and colour, the tone, and they darken as they come down. So I'm going to add darker tones in the bottom of those. So you can see the yellows and the greens are shining through famously. It's there. And each time I do this, I'm actually creating a shape of the way the grass flows. Okay. Dark brown there. So I'm kind of working down towards my this area here, which is to me is the important part of the painting. I want to add in some shadows falling across the grass. Again, I'm remembering to sort of make a shape out of that shadow. It actually means something. Then I'll start to look at some grass shapes here. And just before I go any further, I just want to put in some colour into the road. So I'm going to take a warm yellow and just put it over there. Stop that. Stop. Okay, so I'm adding some more texture into these grasses here. Using, the same colours as I've used before. That sort of helps to create a kind of what I call a homogeneous whole to the feel of the. Right. See dark areas in the log shape. But before I do that, I want to paint on some shadows. Some shadows that fall across the logs. And take some Payne's grey, paint the end of the log. And we take some raw sienna because I want to paint the sort of central areas of this path. Give a sort of direction to the road. I'm going to brighten up that field a bit with a bit more warm yellow and a tiny bit of the raw sienna into that, just to brighten up that field a bit. And this one too. Okay, so I'm going to dry that, and then I'll put the tree shadows in, and then we'll start lifting out different colours where we want the textures of the plants and the various foliage. Okay, sorry about that. Right, carry on. I just need to brighten up these hedges here. Just add a bit more colour into those without disturbing the underlying colours. Add a little bit more yellow into the top of these, just as a glaze, like an oil painter's glaze, just to bring out the colour a bit more. And then I'm going to put the shadows in using phthalo blue and a cerulean blue. Right, now a little bit of magic. I'm going to start lifting off a few colours to create the textures of the plants here. And there's a few little passages I just want to sort of lighten up the grass area so they haven't got just one sort of colour. And let that settle in for a little second, just to lift the paint off. And I hope you'll be able to see this. It's quite subtle, but it's created some textures and just lifted off a little bit of paint, not all the paint. So it's created another sort of dynamic. We're going to do this here with some plants. Just drop in some water. Don't scrub it. Just let the paint lift off the paper. Now you can see it's created some little plant shapes. Okay, so I'm going to create a few grass stalks. And what I'm going to do is use this brush. This is a a Chinese brush made by Herend, Herend, and this was given to me by my good friend Chris, the Chinese chap. Um, and it's got a sort of, it's very short. It's got like a sharp blade on it. It's still, bristly. But if we do these marks like this, it lifts out little grass-like shapes. So you can give the impression of grass without actually sort of painting every blade, if you know what I mean. It's starting giving the impression of grasses. And I'll do that here as well. Add to the texture on the top of the. Now this passage in the tree here, I'm not quite happy about it. It looks a bit too wet. It's not really solid. It's got a sort of softness to it. So I'm going to blob in some paint on that just to bring back the underlying colour and to create some harder, definite shapes. I'll just give that a second. Okay. So now I've brought some nice texture in the tree. And if I want, I can carefully go over that with some yellow, but I think actually that works as it is. It works quite nicely. I'll do that down here as well with a few colours of it. Two little textures. And this little area here, I need to lift up some paint there. And just adding a bit more brighter yellow. So that sort of emphasise that. And we can do this to your heart's content, really. So you see there quite clearly it's gone back to the taken off the darks. I just want to darken the underneath with these a bit. It's quite important because these are in shadow. So again, I'm using the sallow blue and the Payne's grey. And I think almost finally, I can find a clean piece of tissue. I'm going to lift off some of the colour on the road to bring sort of brightness back to the road. And just softening these edges here. Just add the water to that. Not all of it, but most of it, just to bring back the whiteness of the road, to get the idea that the sun is bouncing off that road. And typically with me, I just want to make some lines in the field that look like they've been mowed. Just give directions of the field, and immediately the sun comes out on that field there. So you see, I haven't made too much of this, but there's enough information here to tell you that it's grass and that it's soft and it's got the original yellow shining through. And we've got the final pair. Just want to darken that shadow a bit. And this one here. Okay, so that's it. Final painting.
So beautiful. We are so impressed. There are so many comments on how impressive and beautiful this is. And aha moments after one after another. It,
Dark because as I on there. I just
yeah.
think I turn the lights out.
We do have a couple of questions about the brushes that you are using so much. We have one question which is, do you, yeah, that a realization that you use oil brushes more than watercolor brushes, and also those oil stippling brushes, is are those specifically called stippling
So what, sorry?
brushes, or are they just a regular, are this the brushes that you use for stippling or whatever that is called, you know,
It's
the dots?
actually an acrylic brush.
Is it a regular brush or is it called something specific? People are wondering how to find something similar.
I think it's an acrylic brush, and I think it's made by Pro Art. It's just a very cheap, nasty acrylic brush that is perfect for stippling and adding on textures. Um, and
It looks like it's a little bit destroyed.
it is, yeah, it's past its sell by date, but I love about that. This one is similar. It's even worse. It looks
Have you destroyed them or did they come that way? Like how do we get a correctly destroyed brush?
destroying them because over time the stippling just sort of makes them go like that and look really weird. But they're perfect for those kind of broken edges that I create in my paintings.
So fascinating. We have just loved seeing your textures come to life and how everything is just unfolding stipple by stipple and spatter by spatter.
So
And
yeah,
such a fascinating
actually worked
journey.
out quite well. I'm quite pleased with that.
So beautiful. Amazing work, wonderful, love it, incredible to watch. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to the course. Lots of people have already joined us. Welcome, everyone. I've seen you in the chat. Super happy for you. You're gonna learn so much. Heather writes, so beautifully painted and fresh. Audrey writes, wow. Beautiful painting from Dorte. And fantastic, I'm inspired, writes Courtney. Amazing, says Lisa. Rusty writes, love it, learn new techniques. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your comments. And we have a question for those of you who are here today, and that is, what inspired you the most during today's class with Richard Thorn? Write that in the chat. This can help you remember what you want to take with you, and it can help other people remember what highlights were there today, all of the things we learned. So please share that in the chat. And while you do that, I have a question for you, Richard.
Yeah.
After everything we've seen today, brightness, layering, texture, the techniques, how do you know when a painting is finished so that you don't overwork your paintings?
When it gives you the impression of the effect that you want.
So knowing what you want in advance helps you to guide you to
Right.
not just continue searching for it.
It's a kind of satisfied feeling that you have that you, if you do any more to it, it's just not going to add to what you've already created. You
Makes
know,
so much sense.
sort of like there's a saying in England called gilding the lily. You know, it's a beautiful thing already, so why paint it? You
Ah,
know, that when you reach that point, you think, oh, that was great. That's it. Stop.
thank you for that. And we have some comments here in the chat, and I want to read some of them just to keep ourselves remembering why we were what we learned today. Welcome, Carla. She writes, I joined the course. I love how you teach. And Sushi Smita writes, amazing, thanks. Rachel writes, how he brings brightness into the painting. Thank you, Rachel. And JR writes, the bright, bold colors in that first wash. Thank you. Thank you, AJR. Sorry, my brain is not finding the right the red. Gordana writes the process that he kept adding and lifting throughout to create depth and texture. Thanks, Gordana. And John says, stippling! Never trusted it, but this looks natural and easy. Vibrant colors from Sue, no fear. Thank you, Sue. Courtney says, I signed up, excited to learn more. Welcome, Courtney. And Lisa writes, the foliage. I suck at foliage, love the light, and that it's created by lifting. Thank you, Lisa. And foliage is like, we can know what we want to create, but unless we find the techniques to create it, it's not going to happen. Like if we use a big squirrel brush and we want to create what you created today, Richard, that's going to be very, 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 very hard.
What? If they what? Sorry.
If someone were to use like creating the foliage that you want is something that you also need to learn the specific techniques to do so. So if someone, for instance, is used to painting with a large squirrel brush, it's going to be hard to create exactly the effect that you created today.
No, you won't be able to do it. You've got to have a stipple brush. You've got to have a
Yeah,
hard brush to create those broken edges,
yeah.
that textured edge.
So this was really like a lesson in the craftsmanship of watercolor. It's not just about understanding how the world looks and what you want to create in your mind. It's also a know-how of how to do that on the paper that you shared so much.
That's the $64,000 question, isn't it? It's what you got in your heart equals how much you know about painting. You know, and the two, as you go through your career, your painting career, you'll find that you'll leapfrog over both of those. You know, suddenly your technique is starting to echo what you feel, and then you feel a bit more, and then you're chasing your technique. And
Ah,
then you reach that technique, and then you feel a bit more, and you understand a little bit more about what you want to say and what's in your heart, and it's a leapfrog effect,
ah,
you know. So it's not a case of arriving; it's a case of just it's a journey.
ah, thank you so much for that. That's beautiful. And once again, for those who are inspired, we are just now opening enrollment for the new course at such a great pricing point. And what Richard showed us today is just the first taste of all of this. And in the course, you will get to apply this across four complete different landscapes, from the first bright washes to the final control the darks, and using all of the techniques throughout the different painting parts. And here's an overview of what's included in the new course, Light and Dynamics, Painting Brightness that survives every layer. And you can see an overview here of the different lessons that are here and everything that is included. And we're going to walk through the 2 different pricing plans again, and the 3 different pricing plans if we include the bundle. So here's an overview of layering textures, creating light, creating distance and space, and composition, the entire thing we have here. The first one, scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and scene 4. And the courses that Artefacto create, they are built around the principle understanding why something works, not just how to copy it, but understanding the principles so that you get more and more empowered and have more tools to choose from so that you can paint what you want to paint and express what you want to express. So here you will learn how to keep a bright wash alive, and not just for one single painting, but understand this and learn this as a repeatable method. How to control your whites without masking fluid or your lights, and also how to use lifting to do so. Yeah. And also how to rework a reference with a plan so that you know how you can change it to become an even more beautiful painting than it would have if you only copied it. So you will leave this with a system that you can apply to every painting that you want to paint from here on out. And here is the logistics of how it works. All of these lessons are pre-recorded. You will have lifetime access to them, and you will get access to them through Artefacto's platform. So you can log in and watch them as long as you have a device and internet connection at any time, whenever you want to. And you can go back to this, come back to this years afterwards. You can also pause. You can do this at a slower pace. You can go back, rewind, choose all kinds of things so that it works for you. And there's also a community, so if you want to be part of a community, you're welcome to join the WhatsApp community where students support each other. It's moderated by a dedicated professional community manager and our support team. So this is a place for anyone who's looking for that community and place of inspiration. There's also individual feedback on your paintings from a professional curator if you choose to join this course with the premium plan. And they are artists with formal education in fine art, professional with years of experience, and they are trained to provide feedback and critique, and they are super supportive, and they will never leave you behind. They're there to encourage you and support you in growing from where you are to that next level. And there's also a certificate of completion so that you can share with the world that you have studied with Richard Thorn if you choose the premium plan. We have these prices if you join us while we're still having this conversation. So during the live stream, these are the prices that will pop up when you choose your price, the pricing plan of your choice, when you click that button. And if you want to learn even more from Richard, you can join the bundle, the Color to Light Complete Path Plan, and go through all of his lessons here at Artefacto. And in this complete path, you have 2 courses. You have the one that we have just walked through, and you also have three additional paintings with rocks and waves and people and all kinds of different things to add to your toolbox and to your portfolio. And this also has a workshop price that is only available right now. And we also have a guarantee, so if for any reason after a couple of lessons, within a couple of weeks after you join, you realize that this is not going to give you the results that you want, just write an email to the Artefacto team and you will get your money back, because of course we want this to be a wonderful experience for you that helps you reach that next level. So I'm going to take a look in the chat in just a moment to read your biggest takeaways, and I will also soon shift the focus to the questions. So I'm just going to read some more takeaways here, and then it's time for the questions. I have saved some, I will start with them, but if you have questions, please write them in the chat right now. Sue writes, sophistication through simplicity. That's a master, thank you. And we have Teresa says, splattering is not my thing yet. Everywhere it goes around the paper.
What's that?
The spatter goes everywhere, but not on the paper. Do you have any quick tips on how to get it where you want it to go?
That depends. You've got to hold the spatter brush close to where you want it to go.
Oh.
And obviously, if you held it a foot above, it was going to go everywhere. It's
Mm.
like a sort of spray gun. So you've got to hold it over the area that you want.
Mm. Have you ever tried? We read some comments, and one person mentioned the toothbrush, which is something that some artists use. Have you tried different techniques, and why did you end up in with these particular materials and stop use other?
I used to use a toothbrush, and I still do for the sparkle on the sea. But what I found is they make weird marks that you don't want. So I use the stipple brush because I can direct it in lines a little
Mm.
better than the toothbrush. But
So the toothbrush can it create some lines and some.
yeah, I mean, if you hold it close enough to the paper, you can actually get quite detailed little lines, just especially in the sea when you want horizontal lines, and not sort of splashes everywhere.
Ah,
So
thank you.
hold it close to the paper.
Perfect. And Heather writes, Richard makes watercolors feel less intimidating. It has been such a relaxed session. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing that, Heather. That's beautiful.
That's a result.
Yes, and Jeannie writes that it is okay to use bright saturated colors in the original wash. So eye-opening. Yay! And Anne writes blue shadow. So there are so many beautiful comments in the chat. But I also want to remember to focus on some of the questions. So I'm gonna jump to that. But Biruta asks, can we see the finished version one more time?
Yeah, sure. Actually, what I'm going to do is I was looking at the field, this field here, and I thought it's not giving me enough light. So I'm just going to go over it with some water and just take out some of the paint, just to take it back to a brighter tone. I'm just going to let that sink in a bit. Okay, so that's taken that back. That's got the sun singing on it. So quite nice.
Thank you, Richard. And I'm gonna actually switch themes entirely for just a moment because we got a question. Could we share some more information on this first course that I just almost breezed through it because there's so much information I didn't want to overwhelm anyone. But we do have this course, Tonal Values in Expressive Seascapes. Could you share a little bit about what this course is about, who this is for, and who this might be a good fit for? So if it's a good idea, for whom it is a good idea to add this and join the bundle instead of only the course that is created.
Well, obviously, the difference between a landscape and a seascape is, you've got to paint the sea and all the textures in the sea, and um, again, it's the same as what I've done today. You can see in the big painting here of the cliffs, the textures in the foreground that I've created in the similar way that I did with the grasses here on the landscape. And the orange one, bottom left, I was drawn by the dynamics of the foreground, which is in shadow, contrasted with the orange headland, which is in bright sunlight. But it's really, for me, and for anything, whether it's a landscape or a seascape or a townscape, the whole thing is about shape. The shape of, in the top left-hand one, the shape of the way the waves are coming in. It's got to read like reality. It's got to look like the waves are coming in, and the actual shape of that breaking wave there in the middle. And then on again with the cliffscape, you've got this lovely sort of wedge shape cliff in the foreground. It's all about shapes. And if you can, like I said in the beginning, if you've got a good drawing, you'll have a good painting, because those shapes are all we've got. Everything we see is shape, and I'm drawn to those shapes. I love those shapes, and um, it's everything in my work really. Because I come from, when I was 5 years old, and all I did was draw, and I started to appreciate shape, the shapes of things, and that's gone into my work. Um, if you've got a house that doesn't look like a house, you failed. It's got to look
Yeah.
like.
So what I see as a summarization is that if someone likes your approach and they were felt intrigued by this session and they also want to be able to create seascapes or water and cliffs using the same principles and understanding how this is the same for several different subjects, this bundle can create more of that sense of, yes, this actually works here and it works here
Yeah,
and it works here for someone.
it's exactly the same principle of adding tones, texture, light at the
Thank you
same
so
time.
much for that. Thank you
Oh,
so much for that. And there's more people here writing about all kinds of things. We have a question that we got early on when we started with the first layer. I think this is a great question. Michelle writes, we often see the first wash as also being the lightest value, but if we focus on intensity, is the first wash usually more of a medium value of that particular hue? And I also want to add there that some artists start lighter than you and less intense with you, and they wait until the second layer. Yeah, and they only add that additional brightness in the second layer. What are your thoughts on this?
you can do that, of course, but like I said, you've got to watch the level of pigment to the level of water that you've got there. If you're going to put on a second wash that's got, it's like single cream or something, or milk or something, and there's too much pigment in it, you're going to obliterate that first wash.
Mm,
So if you're going to use those, lighter techniques, you've got to be very careful about, the intensity or the mixture of water to pigment that you've got in your subsequent washes, or it will just obliterate that first wash. And then like I said, you'll just cut out all the whiteness of the paper. So you've got to be very delicate. You can do that. I mean, I'm the big believer in 3 washes and that's it. But some people can do more of that, but they've got to be really delicate about how they apply that wash over the top of another one.
thank you.
Application, really.
Yeah. We do have a question that have popped up a couple of times, so I'm going to ask that one. And that was what was the pencil that you were using when you sketched?
Well, this is it's just a retractable um, pencil that I think they're made by either Creator Color or Koh-i-Noor. I think Stapler do them as well, and they're just you can get refills, and you can get different, like 4B, 6B, 7B, and they're great, because you got to, well, not on this one, but on I've got another one where you unscrew the top and you can sharpen your pencil with it. So it's good for outdoors.
And you used a little bit of a softer
Bit of,
graphite, a bit of a softer graphite then, because you only said 4B and over, or is it? Do you remember what kind of softness you used?
I tend to find if you're using something like HB or 2B, it scores the paper
Mm,
hard.
yeah,
Well, I use a 4B so I can be very
I see.
not disturb the picture of the paper.
And different artists use different papers and different pressures. So I've heard everything from it has to be HB to it has to be a soft pencil. It depends on the materials and the technique and the
Wow.
pressure. But it's good to know with your technique and your paper choices, you use a softer graphite.
Yeah.
Great to
I
know.
mean, I've had, when I use sometimes Arches paper and I splatter on some water in the sky, sometimes it actually leaves a scratch mark because the intensity of the water hitting the paper has left an indentation, and I don't like that. So you've got to be careful, you know. So that's why I use
Wow.
4 and a 5B is it doesn't disturb the truth of the paper.
I see. Thank you so much. And lots of questions, and thank you, team, for answering all of the logistic questions. And thank you, everyone, for sharing your hellos and your thank yous in all of the comments. And let me see if we have a couple of more questions before we wrap up. Now, we've been here for a while, so we're only going to take a couple of more questions. And let's see. Jim asks, do you use the stiff nylon brushes in most of your paintings? And I don't recall if it was nylon, all of them. Maybe one.
No, some of them are, typical sable, daily rounding aquafine. I don't know if they're actually sable, but they're very good. They act like a sable brush. And the smaller ones, same thing, very detailed work. But when I'm doing a typical stippling or painting that requires a lot of stippling, yes, I'll use those nylon brushes.
Thank you for that. And then we have, let's make this the final question, and that is, do you have a thought on this particular painting that we painted today regarding the focal point, or is it rather than being a focal point, more guiding the viewer on a journey through the painting?
Well, what I didn't do in this painting was the, I'll show you, I'll just go back to the painting we pointed out. I realized I'd made them, well, here in the sketch, you can see there's in the paint in the photograph, you can see there's a very sort of light field at the back, just poking through. And I didn't put it in here, I missed it out. And that would have been my focal point. I know it's not much of a focal point, but it is something of a focal point. I can do it now if you like.
If it's easy, if you
Uh,
want to,
yeah, why
would be
not?
fun.
I mean, it's not much of a focal point, but at least it's something, what is I'm running out of tissue. Right, so there's the top of my house. And the field to go up that way. There's a focal point.
Yay, we created one!
Not a little bit relevant. No, I'll add my warm yellow into it. So you can add back, you can add the colour back if you like. Right. So you can see how easy that is with this paper. So that's sort of created a little bit of distance and a focal point. Sorry, one.
Thank you so much for everything. And now we have been here for over 2 hours, so it's time to wrap up. We have just so much thank yous in the chat and from us at Artefacto as well. This was beautiful. And thanks to everyone who joined and who shared so sweetly in the chat and who supported each other. And welcome to everyone who has joined and those who are interested in joining. And just this is a way that you can learn how to create the second wash and using it for creating color, tone, and texture at the same time. So with fewer layers, with more brightness, you can, when you learn these techniques and Richard's approach, you can use this on any subjects. As we have seen, it works for seascapes and cliffs and Richard, cliffs, cliffs and valleys and landscapes of all kinds, and possibly for all kinds of subjects as for cityscapes as well.
Just a word on masking film because I did yesterday
Yeah.
on the beach, and it's almost all masking fluid. When I did this one, you can see the waves here were left out, and I use masking fluid to stipple the thing first with dots, little dots, and then I put in the larger. I mean, this is actually left. I left that, but these shapes here and the little wavelets were all. Sorry, I'm pointing at the photograph, not the painting. This was left, as was this white paper, but all these little areas here were all masking fluid. And so there's nothing wrong with masking fluid as long as it's used to effect.
I see.
And you know, the other thing about masking fluid is that if you're saying doing a grass area and you want the little grass seeds and heads or whatever, put down the color first, then put your masking fluid on top. So when you rub it out, it's still got a color. It's still not, it doesn't go back to white. It goes back to the color that you put on first.
Yeah.
So that's a little tip that you can use. You know, if you want to use masking fluid, there's nothing wrong with masking fluid. It's just that with this kind of paper, I don't have to do it. You know, the paper I painted on today, you don't have to use masking fluid.
And speaking of paper, we have received several questions for people who missed what paper you were using. And you said that you use a particular handmade paper from the UK and that you also recommended an Indian handmade paper.
Khadi, 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 and they do little booklets. I mean, this little booklet is Khadi, Khadi paper, and it's got a lovely texture to it, as you can see. Oh God, I don't know if you can see the texture, but you know, I do lots of little um, paintings. Some one like similar today, to the day. How does this work? Come on, give me it. With my
We see the texture here and there, it pops in and out.
I can't see it. Anyway, I'll put it on here.
Thank you so much. That answered so many additional questions that have popped up. So you basically answered it all.
And we can see here, you know, this little bit here where I've actually put water onto the hedge and it's taken off some of the underlying colour, and I've done it here as well in these passages. Just little bits that are lifted out like we did today, you know, and there's another one. I showed you that one. So it, you know, to me, it's a great paper for doing all that stuff, lifting out. And the one that I use today is called Two Rivers paper. But there are a lot of manufacturers. I think there's an RWS handmade paper. And I think, I'm not sure, maybe Fabriano do one as well. But
Would you say that any handmade paper will work, or is it some of them?
I think that's a case of experimentation.
Yeah.
I'm saying all of them because I haven't used all of them. I don't
Yeah.
you know, I know that Two Rivers and Cardi are great for this.
Yeah.
And the RWS paper is very good as well. But there's a lot of manufacturers throughout the world that do wonderful handmade paper. And whether they work like this, I don't know. I mean, I would assume they do. I don't know why, but
But if
there's
more usual than it's more common than not in your experience that they do work for this technique.
yeah. I mean, Buckingford, they do a paper that works very similar to that, which is a
Mm.
manufactured paper.
Yeah.
I don't like the textures of Buckingford, but they do actually, it's a non-absorbent paper.
Yeah.
It's very good to use like this in this way. I just like the idea of using handmade paper.
We have so many thank yous in the chat popping in. Richard is so generous, says Molly. Thank you, great teacher. And Courtney says, Cuddy Paper had never heard of that brand before. I agree. And Mercedes writes, beautiful. And Luna writes, wow, thanks for kindly showing us more works and emojis. And lots of thank yous in the chat. This was such a wonderful color swim, color bathing session. I love that. And so beautiful colors. I hope everyone is really inspired and that you are inspired to start painting and joining the course if you are inclined to do so, and just continue this process that we have started today. Do you have any final
Remember,
words?
never give up. Never give up. Or, even if you go through a period of months of painting something rubbish, you keep painting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richard.
I wish I'd had Artefacto when I was starting out.
You would just have.
No, I do. I mean, I used to gauge my technique by how many paintings I kept and how many I threw away.
Yeah.
The proportions of ones I saved finally outdid the ones I threw away. It's all a work in progress.
Yeah. It's been beautiful. Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you so much, everyone. This has been a beautiful journey to be on with everyone. Thank you so much. Best of luck with everything.
Yeah, good luck, everybody, and never give up. Keep at it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Lots of inspiration, both in words and in what we got to see, and all of the colors and the subject matter. So just taking this to heart and using it in our next painting sessions. Thank you so much, Richard. Bye bye, everyone.
Pleasure. See you soon. Take care.